Okay, this is an introduction. This module is about proportions, and whether you are a total beginner or have experience with drawing, then you would already know this, that the single most difficult part about flexible freehand drawing is proportions. This doesn't just apply to realistic drawing of certain subject, but most style and most subject, except abstract art. So a lot of subjects can be pretty forgiven with errors in proportions. They have a higher error tolerance, such as still life or an environment. If your proportion is 10% off, assuming other aspects such as tone value, color, line work is on point, with a 10% error, if you are drawing a shoe or a bottle or a scenery art, the shoe would still look like a shoe. That mountain is still gonna look like a mountain. They're still gonna look pretty good. If you are drawing a portrait on the other hand, especially achieving likeness of a person, the error tolerance is much smaller, which means you just have to be so much more accurate. Now what I'm about to teach you is going to help with proportion a lot, and not limited to portrait. Tone value, if you watched my last module, by comparing everything you draw to a common value that you see and ignoring the context of neighbor value, you can get to a higher level of precision pretty fast. Even if you are drawing from life, you can just look at one value from the reference, right? And always put down every other value you draw compared to that. But tone value with proportions, tone value is generally a bit more forgiving to error. For this particular module, I am not going to focus too much on the human face and the various ratios and method, which you should be familiar with at some point, such as Loomis method, Riley, Houston's, if you want to achieve a very deep understanding of the human form. I may delve into those methods at some point, but many people have the misconception, somewhat experienced artists included, if I learn those methods, I can draw anyone really fast. That's not true. It still takes a lot of practice, and those methods, as good as they are, more directly applies to the general human form. Say you are an expert at Loomis method. It's based on an overall ideal human structure. You then have to be very precise and fine-tune it to have it looks like a specific someone. But they do have tremendous value, giving you a starting point and vital for conceptual art. But how are you gonna apply it to drawing a dog or a mountain? The skill you learn by focusing on those methods, which is focused on the human form, may translate to drawing other things. But I want to teach you a simple system that only focuses on helping toward accomplishing the right proportions, basically where anything is, relating to everything else. And this method would help you with drawing everything. If your main focus is on the human form, then all those master methods combined with concept in this module would help your accuracy tremendously. If you only learn those master methods as a beginner, which improves your understanding of the human form and its various ratios, you're still gonna struggle for a long time to create a particular likeness. Partly because those methods generally start with an ideal, very symmetrical like human face. How are you going to use them to draw Kristen Stewart versus Emma Watson, for example? You're going to get the basic human form down and then do a lot of fine-tuning. You still need to then accomplish very precise proportions. The concept I'm going to teach you in this module can be added onto any traditional academic concept. But you can also just use it on your own, based on what you see. Though, like I mentioned in the previous modules, ideally you still understand and think about 3D forms that you see, and how values and gradient changes how you perceive three-dimensionally. Okay, a bit more info regarding the method in this module, which most people will understand and be able to use it very quickly. To increase accuracy to a super precise point still requires a lot of practice. There is just no easy shortcut for this skill if you want to maintain the flexibility of drawing anything by sight. If you are drawing from a picture, you can still use grid or trace, but they are more limiting. I'm not going to teach you those because how they work is obvious. You generally want to use those methods like grid and trace for hyperrealism. Okay, that's the introduction of what you should expect in this module. It's going to be great to be able to draw anything you see. There are even more advanced methods on top of that. But for now, let's dive to the core in the next video. Cheers.